look to be in great shape. How is the training camp going? Because we see the 30-second clips with Rafael Cordero and your whole team, but could you give us a little more insight into how things are going?
I'm doing great, but my body is shit right now. I'm sore, I'm really sore.
Sure, he's 100, but G looks good.
Yeah, man, he's looking really, really good. I'm definitely a little bit crazy, and I'm definitely a little bit scared.
Just 2 months after his epic clash with Jake Paul, Mike Tyson seems to be facing new challenges. Once the most feared fighter in the ring, he now appears to be struggling in a different way. Recent footage has shocked fans, showing Tyson with noticeable weight gain, though not from muscle. This has sparked concern among his supporters, who wonder what's really happening with the boxing legend. Has the aftermath of his fight taken a toll? Or is he simply adjusting to life beyond the ring? Tyson has always been a fighter, both inside and outside of boxing, but his latest appearance raises questions about his well-being. As speculation grows, fans hope to see Iron Mike bounce back, proving once again that he's not one to stay down for long. Whatever the case, his legacy remains untouched, and many are eager to see what comes next for the former champion.
The head movement and inside is just wild.
Everything. And the power. It was just, that's what you wanted to see from a heavyweight. So that guy is still alive, and he still remembers all these moments.
Following his thrilling return to the ring that left fans questioning his legendary legacy, the aftermath for Mike Tyson is anything but pretty. The once baddest man on the planet now seems to have swapped his championship glory for quick cash and lingering regret. With his career unraveling faster than his stamina in the fight, Tyson's comeback is quickly becoming a disappointing and bloated spectacle.
Mike Tyson, people talk to. People are, there's certain people that are just crazy, man.
Well, these people that think that he don't stand a chance against Jake Paul, they're like, this shouldn't even, like, because he's too old. I was like, I think you're crazy.
Mike Tyson, a name that once sent chills down the spine of anyone brave enough to enter the ring. He wasn't just a boxer, he was a force of destruction, a relentless powerhouse who dominated with unmatched aggression. His opponents didn't just fight him, they survived him. With explosive speed and devastating punches, Tyson ended fights in mere seconds, leaving crowds in awe and challengers shattered. His presence alone was enough to intimidate even the toughest fighters, making him one of the most feared champions in boxing history. Tyson's raw power and unrelenting drive made him a legend, a warrior who redefined the sport with his sheer dominance. Every time he stepped into the ring, it wasn't just a match, it was a spectacle, a display of ferocity that few could withstand. Even today, his name remains synonymous with power, intimidation, and absolute supremacy in the world of boxing.
Tyson requested the 2-minute rounds, wanting to see more action.
Fast forward to November 15, 2024, and the name Mike Tyson is now linked to something entirely different: struggle. His much anticipated fight against Jake Paul wasn't just a battle of fists, it was a clash of generations, a collision of egos, and a harsh reminder that even the greatest legends eventually confront their fall from grace.
Friend Mike Tyson tweeted that he almost died over the summer. He said, he had a bunch of blood transfusions, just had to fight to get healthy, and then his performance yesterday against Jake Paul. Just your thoughts on what we saw.
Mike Tyson was right, and I was wrong.
This wasn't the Tyson we all remembered. This was a 58-year-old man who had survived a near-death experience earlier in the year. The once unstoppable force, who used to destroy opponents with ease, now found himself up against a YouTuber-turned-boxer nearly half his age. Let's be honest, this fight felt less like a true competition and more like a sad spectacle.
Welcome home, Iron Mike Tyson!
Tyson fought to keep up as Jake Paul darted around him with the speed and stamina of a much younger fighter. It was a stark contrast to the Tyson of old, the unstoppable force who once crushed opponents with brutal knockouts. This was still Mike Tyson, a legend in his own right, but time had taken its toll. His movements were slower, his punches lacked their former explosiveness, and the aura of invincibility had faded. The once feared warrior now looked weary, struggling to reclaim the dominance that once defined him. Every step, every swing seemed like a battle against the years, a reminder that even the greatest aren't immune to time. Yet, despite the visible wear, Tyson's legacy remains untouchable. He may no longer be the same wrecking machine, but his name still carries the weight of a champion, a fighter who, even in defeat, commands respect.
Stain was ready to kill everybody on the boat because he had to jump in with all these sharks again in the middle of Florida, and he's like, this fucking asshole says that he cares about me and everything else. I've been fighting since I was 12, and he throws me in the fucking ocean with a bunch of sharks.
The entire fight situation has left Iron Mike in a complete meltdown. Let's face it, can a 58-year-old man step into the ring without it taking a massive toll, not just physically but emotionally as well? Weeks after the fight, Tyson opened up about the emotional aftermath, admitting, "The fight was such a big ascent. We were so up and high.
You know, but the day after the fight, the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that?
The morning after the fight, I woke up and asked my wife, why did I do that? Tyson admitted, his words carrying the weight of regret. In another interview, his honesty resonated deeply, revealing the internal battle of a man who once stood at the pinnacle of boxing. After dedicating his life to greatness, he now faces a harsh truth: the sport and the world have moved forward without him. The fire that once fueled his dominance still burns, but the reality of time is impossible to ignore. For years, Tyson was a symbol of strength and fearlessness, but even legends must confront their limits. His words offer a glimpse into the mind of a warrior adjusting to life beyond the ring, searching for purpose beyond the roar of the crowd. Despite it all, Tyson remains an icon, his legacy unshaken, even as he wrestles with what comes next.
It was by its nature a horrible fight, right from the start. It was just awful.
Mike Tyson's return to the ring against Jake Paul was more than just a fight, it sparked waves of emotion and controversy. Since then, the boxing legend has opened up about his struggles, admitting in a December 9th interview that he's been feeling a little bit depressed in the aftermath. For a man who once reigned as the most feared fighter in the world, this wasn't just about a match, it was about facing deeper questions. Where does he stand in a sport that has moved forward? What remains of the legacy he built with his fists? Losing wasn't the hardest part, it was confronting the reality of time, change, and uncertainty. Tyson's honesty reveals the emotional toll of a life spent chasing greatness, now wrestling with what comes next. Yet, even in his struggles, he remains an icon, his name forever etched in the history of boxing.
Jake Paul and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing.
Fallout from Tyson's return hit harder than any punch. His comeback was meant to be a triumph, but the reality was far harsher. Jake Paul, the YouTuber turned boxer, walked away the victor, leaving Tyson's legacy hanging by a thread. At 58, Tyson wasn't just dealing with defeat, he faced the crushing realization that time, unforgiving for even legends, had caught up with him. Yet, let's not forget the business side of the fight. It brought in an astounding 108 million viewers on Netflix, breaking records. The hype was unreal. Tyson, the warrior of old, facing Jake Paul, the new age disruptor. In the opening bell, it was clear this wasn't going to be a fairy tale comeback. Tyson started strong, throwing punches that echoed his past. By the second round, the cracks began to show. The firepower wasn't there, his stamina was gone, and Jake Paul exploited every weakness.
And everybody was saying, oh, nice shot by Jake Paul.
Right hand by Paul, that is.
Round after round, it became clear that Jake Paul stayed in control. His speed and youth were simply too much for Tyson. Tyson's punches, once his deadly weapons, lacked their signature power. By the fourth round, the crowd wasn't witnessing a fight, it was a painful reminder that Father Time is undefeated.
Judge David Yakubuchi sees the contest 80-72, while judges Lawrence Cole and Jesse Reyes see it 79-73, declaring your winner by unanimous decision, Jake El Gallo!
Jake Paul secured a unanimous decision victory over Mike Tyson, with scores of 80-72, 79-73, and 79-73, a decisive win with no room for debate. But while Paul celebrated, the loss carried heavy consequences for Tyson. Once an untouchable legend, he now faced questions about his legacy and whether stepping back into the ring had been a mistake. As if the defeat wasn't enough, controversy quickly followed. Rumors of a leaked fight script spread like wildfire, with critics arguing that the bout was more spectacle than sport. Fans debated whether the drama overshadowed the actual boxing, leaving many to wonder if this was truly the final chapter of Tyson's career. The fight may be over, but the discussions around it are far from settled. Whether this bout was a misstep or just another twist in Tyson's storied career, one thing remains certain: his name will never fade from boxing history.
And we wouldn't be here today without him. This man is an icon, and it's just an honor to be able to fight him. And he's obviously the toughest, baddest man on the planet.
For Jake Paul, it was a career-defining moment, but for Tyson, it was a bitter pill to swallow.
What do you have to say to the critics that brought that up?
Oh no, I don't remember the fight that much. I kind of blanked out a little.
Sir, did you watch it back or anything, or no?
I haven't watched the fight. No, I have not.
The defeat wasn't just in the numbers, it was written all over Tyson's performance. Every heavy breath, every slow step, and every punch that no longer carried its signature power told the real story. This wasn't the same unstoppable force who once struck fear into his opponents. The fight may have ended, but the aftermath lingered. Doubts swirled about whether stepping back into the ring had been a mistake, and whispers of a tarnished legacy grew louder. For Tyson, this wasn't just about losing a match, it was about facing the reality of time catching up. The once dominant warrior now found himself in unfamiliar territory, struggling not just against his opponent, but against expectations, critics, and even himself. And yet, despite it all, Tyson remains an icon. The fight may have exposed his limits, but his legacy, built on decades of dominance, is far from erased.
And I watched the guy's face, and I watched that confidence bleed from his face. Instantaneously.
Tyson later admitted to blanking out during parts of the fight. The last thing I remember is Jake bowing in the ring. Let that sink in. The man who once ruled boxing barely recalls the end of his own fight. Reflecting on his legacy, Iron Mike isn't just a nickname, it's a part of boxing history. With raw power and unmatched aggression, Tyson became an unstoppable force in the ring, setting records that still stand today. At just 20 years old, he made history by becoming the youngest heavyweight champion ever, crushing Trevor Berbick in 1986. That was just the beginning.
It wasn't about what he had left at 58, it was what maybe he might have, and the image, the scary guy, the guy that's gonna eat your children, the guy who's the baddest man on the planet.
Tyson's reign was defined by his brutal, explosive knockouts, with 44 of his 50 career wins ending in a knockout. His first-round demolitions, 24 in total, became a terrifying trademark. His ability to finish a fight before the bell even rang made him a nightmare for every heavyweight contender. When he became the first fighter to hold the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles simultaneously, Mike didn't just win, he dominated. But let's be real, the fallout from Tyson's fight with Jake Paul divided the boxing world. On one side, die-hard fans were applauding Tyson simply for showing up.
Your thoughts on what we saw?
Mike Tyson was right, and I was wrong.
Tyson's reign was defined by his brutal, explosive knockouts, with 44 of his 50 career wins ending in a knockout. His first-round demolitions, 24 in total, became a terrifying trademark. His ability to finish a fight before the bell even rang made him a nightmare for every heavyweight contender. When he became the first fighter to hold the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles simultaneously, Mike didn't just win, he dominated. But let's be real, the fallout from Tyson's fight with Jake Paul divided the boxing world. On one side, die-hard fans were applauding Tyson simply for showing up.
25 million and 40 million?
I think 20 and 40. Yeah,
20 and
I think
40.
that's what I'd heard. You know, which I'm happy Mike got the money, and I'm happy that he didn't get hurt. That was my fear, that it was going to be a real fight and he was going to get hurt.
You've known him for a long time. I've known him for a long time.
And speaking of Jake Paul, he's a debate in himself. Is he the new face of boxing, proving the sport can evolve, or is he the ultimate symbol of everything wrong with modern boxing, flashy, loud, and more about spectacle than skill? Love him or hate him, the guy knows how to stir the pot. After beating Tyson, his celebrity boxing stock skyrocketed. But let's not pretend this didn't also reignite debates about what boxing really is today.
Well, I don't know. Maybe his brother.
You want to fight Logan? Logan, I think he said you might be next.
I'll kill you, Mike.
There's also the question of ethics. Should a 58-year-old, even one as legendary as Mike Tyson, still be fighting professionally? Many critics say no, calling it dangerous, and after seeing his latest performance, they may have a point. This wasn't just another loss, it was a stark reminder that even the most dominant fighters eventually face a battle they can't win in time. Tyson's once explosive power has faded, his reflexes aren't what they used to be, and every moment in the ring now carries a greater risk. While his warrior spirit remains undeniable, the reality is hard to ignore. Fans respect his drive, but at what cost? Some believe he's putting his health and his legacy on the line for fights that may not be worth it. Whether he continues or not, Tyson's place in boxing history is secure. But perhaps the time has come for him to step away for good.
Wasn't the Tyson-Jake fight, wasn't that amazing?
Yeah. It's amazing they got paid so much money for that.
And here we are, facing the complicated reality of Mike Tyson's legacy. Once the undisputed king of the ring, he now finds himself calling out Logan Paul for a potential fight. Yes, Logan Paul. After a disappointing performance against Jake Paul, Tyson isn't ready to step away just yet. Instead, he's still looking for a way to stay relevant in the sport that once belonged to him. For a man who once dominated with sheer power and fearlessness, this latest move feels like a desperate attempt to hold on to the spotlight. Fans are divided, some admire his fighting spirit, while others question whether he's tarnishing his own legacy. Either way, Tyson's name continues to spark headlines, proving that even in his later years, he remains a figure people can't ignore. The question now is whether another comeback fight will restore his reputation or further complicate his storied career.
Believe that he was making the money he says he's making, Showtime Boxing wouldn't have gone out of business, and Showtime would have made sure they kept paying him.
Some say it's all about the money. Who wouldn't want to cash in on that celebrity boxing paycheck? But let's be real, Tyson isn't exactly starving. He's got millions in the bank. No, this isn't about finances. It's something deeper. Maybe Tyson just can't let go of his glory days. There's a certain allure in staying relevant when the world has moved on, and Tyson clearly hasn't figured out how to stop craving that spotlight. So, he calls out Logan Paul, and suddenly, the fight talks back. But there's a catch: how much of Tyson's legacy is he willing to risk? The man has been through hell and back in his life, and now, instead of riding off into the sunset, he's back at square one, trying to convince both us and himself that he still has it. The problem is, every time Tyson steps into the ring, he adds another chapter to a story that doesn't need more pages. His name is already legendary. Does he really need another hit to his record to prove something now? Let's zoom out and look at this so-called comeback in a broader context. Tyson's return is about more than just him, it's about boxing itself. And, oh boy, does it have a lot to say about the state of the sport? We need to talk about celebrity boxing, because yeah, it's a thing now. Don't get me wrong, the money's great, but it's also destroying the soul of the sport. Where are the next Mike Tyson, the next Muhammad Ali? Instead, we're watching a battle of Instagram stars, and it's nothing but a shameless spectacle. Tyson's loss to Jake Paul wasn't just a personal failure, it's a flashing neon sign that boxing is in trouble.